Mark Rosen from Wcco Tv, and it's my pleasure to introduce my good friend Ron Henderson, the Fitness King, presenting Motivation, one word to help change your life.
Welcome to Motivation. I'm Ron Henderson, aka the Fitness King. I'm excited to have my good friend Mr. Mark Rosen on Motivation. Mark Rosen is the former WCCO sports anchor in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Welcome to Motivation, Mark. How are you?
Ron, good to be here.
Right.
Thank you.
It's like
Thank
I just saw you yesterday.
Yeah, well, that's true. We did see yesterday.
In this special episode of Motivation, I'm going to get up close and personal with Mark. Really, it's entitled Life After CCO. But Mark, before we get into what you're doing now, can you share with my viewing audience just one thing? And I've been your coach and trainer for over 24 years,
Right.
but one thing that I don't know and most people don't know about you.
Well, really, I think how normal a person I really am. I think because when you get recognized on television and people stop you in grocery stores or movie theaters or obviously sporting events, and I think the fun part about television is that there's an intimacy that people have with you. They get to know you. They feel they invite you into your living rooms
Right.
every night and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it really gets down to it, I feel like I'm kind of invisible. I like the same things that everybody else likes. There's nothing special about who I am. I just like to enjoy the simple things of life.
Right.
So I mean, I think because I'm on television, I got pushed and I enjoyed all of it into a world that seemingly is glamorous, but in fact, all I really enjoyed was just doing normal things and engaging with people. When I go into a grocery store, I don't ever think about people recognizing me.
Right.
I'm always kind of, oh yeah, that's right. I'm on TV, or I was on TV.
Right.
I think just the normalcy of it. I never got caught up in that part of the business.
Not even when you were younger.
Well, especially when I was younger, because when I started, Ron, I mean, I was not on the air. I mean, people think, well, I was on television for 50 years. I wasn't on TV for 50 years. I think a lot of people, I had to learn the fundamentals of the job. So I never thought of myself ever being on television. All I wanted to do was become a good writer.
Yes.
I learned how to do the basics really well, and I was surrounded by terrific people. So when I started, I mean, I was humbled is an understatement. All I cared about was staying gainfully employed and learning and absorbing from the best people in local television.
And you had no aspirations to be on TV at all?
Not
Back
at
in
the
the early
moment.
days.
Not in the early days I did, but there was a point when I don't remember exactly what clicked, but they had an audition for a basketball show that Channel 4 was doing with Jim Dutcher, who was then the basketball coach, and I said, well, I'll do that, and they gave me the job. And then what really kick-started it was getting an opportunity to host a show with Ahmad Rashad back in 1980. So it was I was there for a good 10 years before. I was on television, I was doing reporting, but I wasn't really anchoring, and then it just sort of segued gradually into that. I wasn't ready for all that before. I was just too young and too raw. And
Some people would say you're born ready.
Well, no, you know what though? But I mean, I think what I would have done, I think that the key thing is I would have been out kicking what I should have been doing, because if I had gone on the air, I would have probably failed. They would have said, like a baseball player, you got to go down to the minors. You're not ready yet.
Right.
I didn't get on the air until I was ready.
Okay.
And so that's the interesting part of it, I think.
And how did you pick up your writing skills? Was it just?
It's a really good question. I think
family?
I was. My mom was a great writer, a wonderful writer, wonderful letter writer. Back in the day when people actually wrote letters to each other.
See?
I learned a lot from my mom inherently, but I think what I did was just there was a wire copy machine, and there'd be sports stories on it, and we called rip and read, and I'd rip it, and I would rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it, try to make it conversational.
Right.
And I was in journalism in high school, and
Rip and read,
but then I would give the script to Hal Scott, and he would cross out a bunch of words, and eventually my highlight was when he didn't cross off one of those words, and he was accepting my writing.
Right.
But you have to learn how to write conversationally. You have to learn how to write like people talk.
Exactly.
And that is the big thing that a lot of young broadcasters, sportscasters don't do. They write like they think the audience needs to hear, but you need to actually converse with them, have a conversation with them, and write that way. Don't write like you're broadcasting on ESPN.
Exactly. So let me ask you, how did you handle criticism back in those days? So you didn't have any skills with writing, and you have Dave Moore, you have all these people that are really good at what they do.
Hal Scott,
And then Hal Scott is critiquing everything. How did you handle that at a young age?
Well, I think I was motivated by fear. I mean, I'm motivated by, yeah, I really was. I didn't want to lose my job, and so I was motivated to do better.
Right.
And so I wasn't discouraged by it. But when I did my first audition tape, my news director said, "Well, it's okay, but don't ever expect to be on the air here."
Wow.
Well, you can go one of two ways.
Sure.
Anybody can go one of two ways when you get told something like that. You can either
Right.
crawl in the fetal position or
Right.
be motivated and say, "I'm going to do whatever it takes to
Right.
impress him and get better."
Right.
I took the latter. I did the same thing with my writing. I didn't get discouraged when I was told that, but I was taught by some people who said, when you write a story, when you're covering a cross-country meet, write it like the people were there. What were the wind conditions like? What did you observe as a reporter?
Right.
Observational sort of writing, and that's really the key thing that I learned. And I studied other people's scripts who I admired, and so I
Right.
just looked at how they did it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like anything else. You wanted to emulate
Yes.
successful people.
Yes, and you're very skilled. Have you ever thought of actually teaching other people how to write? Because you do an excellent job at all.
Well,
this
I'd
stuff,
like
you
to.
know?
Yes, I have. I would love the opportunity to teach someday. I mean, a broadcasting class or something. I think
Yes,
because of
yes.
the way the business has changed so much, in particular. I think there's a way that you can do it. I think I know when I see something that I don't like, and I work with interns a lot
Right.
to say this is what you need to change to make that story better, to show
Right.
me more of who you are,
Sure.
as opposed to just some
I
random
like that. I
reporter.
agree.
You need to get yourself out there,
Right.
and that's the only way you can distinguish yourself in this business these days,
Right.
by really showing who you are.
I like that. Who were your two biggest mentors in the business at the
Well-
early age, when you started for the first 10 years?
I'd say Hal Scott, who was a sports director, because he was in control of my career, and he was the one who was looking at my scribbling, my writing,
right.
and without saying anything to me, like I said, crossing out words back in the day when we actually typed scripts,
Yep.
not on a computer, because those didn't exist. R.J. Fritz was a very close friend, co-worker for many, 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 many years. I would have to say, even though he didn't realize it at the time, Bob McNamara was a reporter
Right.
who I admired the most because he was arguably the best writer I'd ever been around, I was ever around. He had a style, a simplistic style, but a conversational style. Went on to the network for many years. So, I mean, I had so many. I mean, we had a dozen people that went on to CBS News Network as correspondents in our
Right.
local newsroom. So
Okay.
there's a lot to pick from.
Okay.
So those are a couple of them.
Okay, so how did, when you got to the point that you were finally on the air, let's say the 5th or 6th time, did you ever have a meeting with Hal Scott, and did he look at you and say, "Mark, I was wrong"?
No, that question ever. I think it's Hal. Actually, I replaced Hal on weekend stuff. It was a question. He never
Was
said.
he surprised?
I don't think so. No, he never said much of anything because he I think by just by his nonverbal communication, by not scribbling out those words,
Right, okay.
I knew in his eyes I had made it.
Right.
But there was it was more from Ron Henderson, my news director at the time, who was the one who told me don't ever
Right.
expect to be on the air.
Right.
When I kept getting more promotions, he never said they were wrong. They just kept giving me jobs. So by doing that, I knew, but I never got comfortable.
Right,
Never ever took it for granted. Never thought. I had a news director say, you're going to go back and work on your performance. I mean, I was always, that hurt me a little bit one time. I was like, wow. And then, believe me, it was not this sort of, Mark Rosen's a star. I was just kind of caught in the middle of a lot of sportscasters at that time,
Right.
early in my career.
Right. You've always, from the years that I've known, you've always seemed to be very happy as a person. I know a lot of people in the business. So how did you keep that peace all those years?
I just think it's just who I am, and I think I've enjoyed. I think it's the upbringing you have, the people you're around, the friends you're around.
Right.
I never took a day for granted
Right.
walking in the studio, and I'm covering sports. I'm not covering murder and mayhem.
Right.
I'm covering for the most part, even though we all know Minnesota has more than its share of disappointing moments. But I'm covering things that people are excited about, and I think my natural personality would then just shine. But that took a while to break through that wall, to really show people who I was and who it took. There's no such thing as an overnight success. I would say a good 15 years before I really felt comfortable pushing through a little bit more. And I kept striving, even at my last days, striving to be better.
Always to be the best.
Yeah.
And I know I've seen you do things on TV, and it's like you can do a script like that, you can do a commercial like that, and you have just almost, I say it's a natural skill that you have.
Well, I think some of that was honed on radio, but at the same time, you have to believe that you have a conviction about what you know and how you can communicate that with people.
Right.
Again, that just
Right.
doesn't happen overnight. How to talk in short sound bites, how
Sure.
to express yourself without
Right.
rambling on, especially in
Right.
television where there's a clock always working against you.
Right.
So, I mean, that's, but yes, I enjoyed, when I did my live shots, as they say, in the field,
Sure.
I enjoyed that the most because I wouldn't have a big script in front of me. I would just
Sure.
scribble a couple notes and I could just go.
You just- yeah,
And I could just
kinda
wing
just
it.
wing it, right?
And I
right,
felt
right.
more comfortable doing that than almost in the studio setting.
Right. Mark, as your fans would say, Rosie, do you miss TV? Do you miss
Here's
it?
what I miss, Ron. I miss the locker room, but I don't miss the game. Okay,
Okay.
it's what I'm saying is, as you know, and you talk about this a lot. We have many conversations about relationships. I miss the relationships.
Sure.
I don't miss being on the air. I don't miss the process. I don't miss night after night of sitting at my desk with really not a lot of people around in the
Okay.
newsroom anymore,
Right.
eating dinners,
Right.
watching every single
Sure.
game and having to pay attention to every single game.
Yeah, so it's not glamorous, folks.
No, hardly.
People think it is.
I know
Everybody
they
wants
do.
to be on TV.
I get it.
I'd love to be on TV. Come
Yeah,
on.
But
I'm on TV.
when push came to shove, I felt like I was, when you had your time, I was, an actor on Broadway. I was an actor. This was my time to perform. So I
Right.
said to myself,
Right.
I got to bring it every night.
Right.
But no, I don't miss
Okay.
the monotony of it. I was working way too many hours, and
Right.
I am absolutely
Okay.
loving being at home at night.
Okay. What was the best part of working at CCO? What was the best part? Then I want you to share what the worst part of working at CCO
Well, I think the
was.
best, because I was the kind of the last of a breed there. I recognize what a legacy station WCCO Television is. It's arguably one of the top stations in the history of local television news.
Right.
And I felt like it was my responsibility to carry the mantle through the next generations, the people who are there right
Yes.
now, young reporters, to understand what a special place this is. I think that the aura that CCO Television was the place to go for local news after all these years. I knew we had ups or downs, but I think that was something that I always took to heart. That it was like people maybe wearing Yankee uniform or whatever it might be.
Right,
That,
okay.
working at WCCO was like, hey, this is pretty special to be here.
What would be the worst part of working at CCO, if there's any, if you can share?
Really, the worst part is really the hours. I mean,
Just the hours.
I think
okay.
the hours got to me after a while because I was
Right.
also doing radio early in the morning and then going to work at 3 o'clock and getting home at 11:15.
Right.
And the monotony of it. And honestly, I think the worst part was our lately, because of budget constraints, lack of staffing.
Yep.
We used to have a 6-7 person sports department, and we were kind of down. We were down to 3.
Okay.
And so I
And
think
you write most of your own stuff,
Oh, I
right?
do.
Okay.
Yeah, 90% of it. Yeah, I mean, it was, and I love writing. It's my favorite part of my job. But the resources, the lack of resources, was something I was really frustrated with. That was something that was long gone and wasn't coming back. So
Right.
you had to just kind of deal with that, the reality of it. And I knew that, but it was
Right.
still harder to accept.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I don't watch sports anymore since you're not there, by the way.
Well-
Get the hand.
Okay.
And a
Well.
lot of people tell me the same thing because it's
Yeah, I get you.
yeah. You wish people well, but I think like I said again, I think you have a gift to do what you were doing. So, can you share with me? Give me one of the best fan moments that you've ever had from
Wow.
a fan.
I think the one that stands out is coming back with the Twins after they won the '87
Yep.
American League Championship and walking back inside the Metrodome when the whole place erupted. And I was there to cover it, but I was also there as kind of a fan,
Yep.
growing up as a baseball fan, and surrounded by and seeing Kirby Puckett and Ken Herbick and all these guys acting like 10-year-old kids
Oh,
who just
yeah.
got their first Little League uniform. I think from a media standpoint, but from a fan perspective, that stood out. And then fast forward from covering something, Minneapolis Miracle. I mean, Case Keenum threw that pass to Stephon Diggs just a couple years ago.
Yep.
And he burst in the open when the game was over.
Yep.
And we're so used to having our hearts broken.
Oh, yeah.
And look at even the media people all stood up and looked like,
Nobody believed it.
did that just happen?
Oh, yeah.
Our
Oh, yeah.
mouths were just
Yeah.
dropped.
He had to
But-
be out of bounds or something.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. So I
yeah.
think that moment,
Right.
if you fast forward from the '87, '91
Sure.
Twins
Oh, yeah.
teams, and people remember where they were,
That was
if they
great.
were alive and Puckett hit the home
yeah.
run and all
Oh,
that.
yeah, great.
That moment definitely stood out.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Being there and seeing it happen.
Yep, I would agree. How about worst fan moments? Do you have any stalkers Have you ever had any stock?
I had, I've been on the road a couple times. I was doing a live shot in Chicago, and some fan, I was talking with the Twins beating the White Sox, some woman threw M&Ms at me.
Okay.
She was just mad because I think the Twins beat her team.
Did you catch any?
Yeah, I did. I think the tough part is when you're cognizant of doing a live shot and you get rambunctious fans who may have had a few extra pops of alcohol, and you got to kind of be aware that you don't want to infuriate them. You got to be professional at the same time. You don't want them jumping in front of you. So you have to. It's a fine balance of sort of engaging with them.
Right.
Hey, listen, have your fun. Do me a favor before you go in. Don't scream any obscenities.
Sure.
Don't jump in front of me.
Right.
Just behave yourself.
Yep.
And I think but some things you can't control. But I remember the woman throwing M&Ms at me. And in Philadelphia, honestly, a couple of years ago for the NFC Championship game.
Oh yeah.
Whew, they were wound up.
Yeah, rowdy girls.
It was definitely something that I couldn't believe. But yeah.
Yeah, pretty rowdy.
Yeah.
How about? Let me ask you this question because this is kind of important. You had a time when you decided to write this book. Okay. It is The Best Seat in the House.
Right.
Mark Rosen, Sports Moments, and Minnesota Memories. This is my copy that you gave to me.
Correct.
I cherish this. What caused you to actually write this book, Mark?
I always wanted to, in the back of my mind, honor my mentors. The whole purpose behind this book was I knew I was in a unique position that someday, where I'm sitting today with you, that my career would be over from television standpoint. And I wanted to chronicle what a wonderful ride I've had and how fortunate I was. And mostly in the early chapters is a testament to my mentors, because if I didn't write this book, no one at WCCO could ever do what I did.
Exactly.
It won't happen again.
Exactly.
Dave Moore wrote a book, but it was really more of letters to fans. So this was the only copy, sort of an opportunity to say, this is what WCCO television was like, and then it's segueing into, these are the people who I was the most impressed with, and dealing with stories with Harvey Kilbrew and Bud Grant and Jim Marshall and Kirby Puckett, all these people, kind of Miracle on Ice, and kind of taking them inside my world that I got to experience.
Right. So you have a lot of personal things in there too.
Yeah.
People don't
Business-wise, a little bit, some family stuff, but mostly I think from a standpoint of, I'm glad you were along for the ride. I'm glad you were able to share this. Let me give you a little more of an inside look at what happened.
Right. Can they still get the book too, and where can you get it? Where can I get
It's a
it?
really good question, because I was just talking to my co-author Jim Bruton about it. I don't think you can get it at Barnes and Nobles right now. It went through a whole process for a couple of years. It was out, and we put a paperback out. I was just telling.
All right. So Mark, you were saying that they actually can get the book on Amazon.
I hope so. I know it's still available. I think you can. Yes, and I hope we can maybe put out another edition in time here. We've talked about it a little bit, briefly. I had a couple of book signings where I went, geez, I wish I had more books. We just ran out of them. You order them, and the publisher owns them. So, but it's something that I hope we can kind of revisit here soon.
Yep, I would like to see it out. Okay, definitely. Let me ask you. Everybody that I talk to, they say, "Oh, your guy, he retired." I said, "You didn't retire." I said, "We've talked about it. You refired." So, what is Mr. Mark Rosen doing with his life?
Well, I mean, it was really important for me to continue on in broadcasting, and I'm very fortunate that I have really good bosses over at KFAN, #1 station in town right now. So I get up, I do 3 morning shows a week, and I'm on with the Common Man from 2 to 3, 5 days a week. So I definitely have my fill. And I'm still very involved in the sports scene, whatever I want to cover, however I want to do it. And we're just sort of redoing a lot of those things, but you got to have a reason to get up in the morning. I think and there's a lot of other things that have opened up in my world, which is, I didn't have time to even think working till, from getting up at 7 in the morning many times and working till 11:15 at night. There was no breathing time to kind of take a step back and go, what's next for Mark Rosen? What's next for me? Now I have that opportunity to do that. I think it's been well publicized. My wife is going through a very serious illness right now. She was diagnosed with brain cancer last July, and being a caregiver and being there for her was a huge motivation. And when I decided to leave, and that's obviously remains my #1 priority, but she encourages me to continue to pursue things, and that that I want to do it, and it's important. It's a good balance. You have to have a balance in your life,
definitely,
because life goes on however you want to look at it. I get to readjust my priorities.
Right. Yes. Are you doing any podcasts or anything?
I'm about to. Thank you for asking. I'm about to start. I haven't started one yet, but I'm really excited about that because I love long form interviews, and I have an opportunity to do a lot of that, and KFAN is encouraging me to do that.
Good.
And I have some real good possibilities, not just in sports, and that's the thing, Ron, you talked about. I have a lot of other interests besides covering sports, and I don't really watch that many sports right now. I watch some, but not as much. With movies and entertainment and
you'd like to know how to cook.
Yes, I'm getting better at that. But the point is, it's out there for me. So, but from a podcast standpoint, the world's open for it, and people are really engaged in podcasting right now.
Right.
And I think it's important because we're so caught up in how we text and tweet and Facebook and Instagram, and no one sits down and has conversations anymore.
Right.
And yet, the studies show that people who do get engaged with podcasts that's all they do when they're listening to it. So
Really?
I'm excited about that possibility, doing more personal speaking,
Okay.
some motivational speaking, and just making better choices because I have an opportunity to make choices.
Okay. Have you thought about going on any of those reality shows like Survivor? I'm sorry, Amazing Race. How about
No.
that? Naked and Afraid.
Okay, that's
Folks,
not
Mark
happening.
Rosen, Naked and Afraid.
Nobody wants to see that. Trust me. You, on the other hand, would be great, but no reality shows. Maybe I could apply to go on Wheel of Fortune or something.
Right.
I saw the guy at Jeopardy's won like $1 million and some dollars. He's on a roll right now.
Okay.
I play along at home, but no reality show. Game show, yeah, maybe, but not a reality show.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about that. I'm watching Survivor that night. I said,
Yeah.
Mark should go on that.
No.
Race.
I think that's you.
Okay.
You're definitely a person who could attack that. I think.
Well, I tried to. Okay.
Yes.
So you spend a lot of time just kind of relaxing right now. Any hobbies?
Well, I mean, I think right now, being home with my wife and just enjoying our time. We've never been able to be home at night, so having dinner at home, watching some TV together.
Right. I know you really like that, which surprised me.
I had a coffee cup on my desk for the longest time. All I really want is a normal life, but I really do crave having normalcy,
Yeah.
and so. Getting my exercise, eating better, making better choices for myself,
Right.
but eventually traveling. I like to go. I mean, I enjoy going up like in the summer, like a lot of people listening right now. I got my favorite spot up in Walker, Minnesota, up at Chasing the Lake, and I enjoy going to go. Get my golf game going now that my left knee is healed up. I enjoy being on a fishing boat, just to relax, and so I enjoy staying around. I like traveling a lot. My son lives out in San Francisco. And so that's my hope is to even take more maybe exotic trips as time goes on.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
In the last 40 seconds, what could you tell my fan base to motivate them to take that next step in their life? You got about 40 seconds.
Well, I'd say, honestly, find that passion and attack it like there's no tomorrow. None of us are, as Kirby said, are promised tomorrow. And I think when you find your passion, don't settle for anything. You are in control of whatever you want to do. We live in a wonderful world that happens. And don't let other people beat you down. Look in the mirror and go, I can get this done. I can do this. So I think that's the biggest thing is that push yourself for new challenges.
Right, yeah. Don't settle for somebody saying you can't make it or you're never
Correct.
be this or you're never
We
be
were
that.
all told that,
Right,
and
exactly.
there are many people who bust through it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Folks, on that note, you've been watching Motivation with my guest, WCCO #1 sports anchor, Mr. Mark Rosen. He's not on TV on CCO, but he's still the #1 sports anchor in town.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. But folks at home, whatever you do, stay fit, stay blessed, and keep watching Motivation. We're going to see you next time on Motivation. Great job.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The things that I talk about, I live every single day of my life. I don't believe in bad days. All of that stuff goes with it. Haven't had a bad day in probably 30 years.
Doesn't matter how much money you have, it's how much health you have. The healthier you are, the more you can do, the longer you can do the things that you want to do. You say you can't do it? You say you're too old? I say you can. You are never too old to improve the quality of your life.
You come home not walking in the house like this. Hello, honey. Hello. How's the day? Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to get along because you don't have any energy. But when you take care of yourself, you walk in the house with that energy. Lucy, I'm home. That's the one thing that you cannot buy is good health. You have to earn it. Live life with passion, and remember, stay fit, stay positive. Thank you for your time. Give yourself a round of applause for being here. Honestly. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm the Fitness King, and I'm coming to get you for winning workouts.
To book Ron Henderson for your next event, call 612-386-8178 or send an email to ron@fitnessking.com. That's ron@fitnessking.com.